Thursday to Zion Cheshvan Tovshin Ein Zion, and we are in Teres Menachem Sefer HaMamorim Tovshin Yud Gimel the Maimer Basi Legani Tovshin Yud Gimel. We are up to page Pei Hey, chapter 7, Ois Zion, at the bottom of the page. In the last Ois, the Rebbe explained that the reason why, despite the fact that it is the nature of a Yid that he cannot be separated from Getlichkeit, nevertheless, the Ruach Shtus is what causes, the spirit of folly is what causes the person to have the ability to transgress Hashem's will, and that is, the Ruach Shtus is the forceful desire in physical pleasures. And the Rebbe said we were talking about permitted physical pleasures, and the Rebbe explained how that cools off one's interest in Kedusha, one's Gishmak, one's pleasure in Kedusha and things holy. And the Rebbe went into an analysis of how that works and why that is, and why it is folly and great folly to exchange the pleasure in godliness for the pleasure in physical material matters. What is the reason for the Ruach Shtus? That's what the Rebbe explains now. Chapter 7, V'hinei. Hasib el-Ruach Shtus, the reason, the cause, the reason for the spirit of folly is of the Mishnah, is brought in the Mishnah. Be'inyin kesiste ishtei. Concerning Saita, a woman who strays. So in the verse, a woman who strays is called kisiste ishtei. The pasuk talks about a Saita in terms of if the woman will turn away or stray. So the Mishnah says, the Mishnah discusses there the different elements that were associated with this din, with this law. One of them is that she needed to bring a korban sa'irim. She needed to bring a mincha offering, which is, she needed to bring a korban, and they needed to bring a korban of sa'irim made of barley specifically. Why barley as opposed to wheat? For example, says the Mishnah, Keshem shema'aseh ma'aseh behema, just as her actions, her behavior was similar to the behavior of an animal, animalistic behavior. Therefore, the sacrificial offering associated with this particular din is also a korban made up of animal food, sa'irim. V'hainu, in other words, that siste, saita, shtus, folly, is associated with ma'aseh behema, right? With animalistic behavior. V'hainu. The reason, shasibehi, what is the reason that the person can have a spirit of folly? Is because lefishu behema. Because he's an animal. What does that mean? Shechoser hadas tikdusha. What is the feature of an animal? That it's lacking in knowledge, in das. Right? The Rebbe is going to elaborate what that means. But which das? Das of Kedusha, knowledge of holiness. The Zui Asiba, this is the reason, top of page Pevov, Lehachemda, for this desire, for this lust, Bidvarim Agashmiyim, for in matters of physicality, Shushtus, which is folly, as the Rebbe explained at length in the previous chapter. Umitzadzeh, because of this, because one who is possessed by a Ruach Shtus, by a spirit of folly, is like an animal. Because of this, the person can make a mistake, and to think that in the transgression that he commits, with the transgression that he commits, he does not become separated from godliness. Now, what does it mean? He's lacking in das, in knowledge. So the Rebbe explains. And although this individual does have intellect and does have an understanding in what matters holy, it's not that he is ignorant or doesn't have the ability to understand matters of Kedusha. Says the Rebbe, Havana, in other words, intellect and understanding, mikol mokum ein ze maspik. That is not sufficient as an antidote or as a barrier against the Ruach Shtus. the spirit of folly? What do you need? What does one need in order to resist the spirit of folly? There needs to be bechinas hadas dafka, the aspect of, which aspect of the intellect? Knowledge. Specifically knowledge. What's the pshat? The Rebbe is going to explain further on, but first the Rebbe says, the mishum zeh, it's because of this, hinekim at kol hanashamis, almost all the souls saying in our generations, nikroim b'shem zeh behema, are referred to as, are called with the name, the seed of animal. If you remember, we learned way back when, I believe it was in Ve'ela HaMishpatim, one of the first Mamorim that we learned in Tafshin Yud Aleph, the Rebbe explains quite at length, a few Mamorim we learned actually, but the Rebbe explains the difference between Zera Adam and Zera Behemah, the different types, the different levels of souls. Yeah. And most souls in our generations are from the seed of animal. What is the distinct feature? A lack of das, a deficiency in the particular faculty known as das. Knowledge, and as the Rebbe is going to explain soon what that means. But being that most of our generations, most of the souls in our generations are from the seed of animal, therefore we are deficient in what? In this faculty of das. For although most of these souls of our generations are able to comprehend and to grasp intellectually in Yonei Kedusha B'chlal, generally matters of holiness, particularly Gdulas Haberi Yisborach, when we talk about the greatness of the Creator, from the mouths of books and the mouths of authors, the souls of our generations, most of them are able to have a great comprehension and a great understanding in these matters of holiness and in the matters related to Hashem. So why do we say that what? That most of the souls are Zera Behema, from the seed of animal, meaning to say there is a deficiency in intellectual faculty? He says, Mikol Mokim, nonetheless, Nikroim B'Shem Zera Behema, they are called with the name Zera Behema, the seed of animal. Why? Because what particularly, specifically, does the deficiency consist of? In what are these souls deficient? In the aspect of das. I think it's usually it's translated das. Chochmah is wisdom, bina is what is understanding, and das is knowledge, right? But what does it mean specifically? It means knowledge and feeling.
Yes,
what does that mean?
It's the other way around. It's knowledge, wisdom, and understanding.
No, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Yeah.
But what is das? So the Rebbe quotes, of course, from Tanya. In chapter 3 of Tanya, the Alter Rebbe explains what das is. The inyan of das, Tanya. What is the idea of das? It's not just a kind of another aspect of the intellectual process. It's deeper than that. In Tanya, the Alter Rebbe explains that das is from the expression "and man knew." This is when Adam and Chava united as one, right? So it says, Adam yodas Chava, and man knew Chava. What does that mean? Das means being tied and being connected to the matter in which you're engaging. What does that mean? The name is it's not a superficial, transient contemplation. The oz bekal yonotik masecha, because if that's the case, if it's only superficial and transient, it is easy to become untied and separated from the intellect. But rather, das is the process. He ties himself to the thing. Excuse me. Liegt in die Sach. He's immersed in that matter. That is the basic definition of das, as the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya. Says the Rebbe goes on and says, Ulamayla Yeser, and higher yet, Inyan Hadas, Bechinas Hahargosha, das is the idea of feeling. Shemargish as adavar. You actually feel the matter. Not only does one feel the matter in one's mind, but rather also that the feeling penetrates also what? The heart. The zehu amitis inyan das. This is the true meaning of das, of knowledge. Das, the context in which it's explained over here. The fifth Rebbe writes, Hatam, he explains the reason why a cotton, a minor, meaning someone that is halachically a minor, meaning somebody that is under 13 years old, under bar mitzvah, is not obligated to fulfill mitzvahs. Why? He's able to comprehend the matter properly, fundamentally, thoroughly. So he knows what a mitzvah is, and he knows what the obligations are. Mikol mokim lav bar dasu. That's the word. He is not a master of das. Meaning to say, the kavana bezehu. The meaning is the einlei hargosha beyoker v'ged ladover. He does not have an appreciation, a feeling in the preciousness and the greatness of the matter, of the mitzvah. Umipnei she'einlei hargosha zu. And because he doesn't have this feeling, it is impossible. It is not possible to obligate him, and to put upon him, achrayis, to put on him a responsibility, the mitzvah of a positive mitzvah, an active mitzvah, or a mitzvah of refraining from doing something negative. And as is brought in the Rambam, the expression concerning taking on promises and consecrating things to Kedusha, it is a condition that when the one that's taking on the promise, the oath, the promise or the dedication, should know for whose name to whom he is promising and to whom he is consecrating. What's the expression? Tzarich sheyedu, not tzarich sheyovin, right? Tzarich sheyedu. It's not just some understanding. It needs to be yediyah. What is yediyah? Bechinas hargosha. This aspect of feeling, where it's a lot more real and it's a lot more one with the person who is engaging in that process.
Related with the intellect, the connects with the
precisely.
So
that's why das.
And that's what.
Precisely.
That, then you're two separate things.
As the Rebbe says in the Maimer that I was referring to earlier, I believe it's Elam Mishpatim Yud Aleph, where he says the difference between someone with das and someone without das is that without das, you know how one knows how one ought to be. With das, one is. Das makes it real. That's the feeling. It's not just some passing notion or wonderful idea. Ulamayla Yeser, higher yet, says the Rebbe, even higher than Hargosha, Hu'inyan ha'hakora. It's recognition. It's a subtle difference. The Rebbe says the difference between feeling and recognition is, feeling could be even something which is not revealed by the person. It says in Mishnah that a heart knows the bitterness of its soul. There's different interpretations of what it means. One of the interpretations is that a person deep down will have a feeling, knowing that one needs to improve, that one needs to engage in something better or refrain from something that's negative. So often it's like an intangible or an unidentifiable feeling, but there is that underlying aspect in one's conscience, deep in one's conscience or in one's subconscious, as it were, that causes him to know that he needs to improve. But over there, it could be concealed. That's also a feeling, but it's concealed. It's hidden. It's not in the fore. Although the cause for the bitterness of one's soul, or for this angst, or for this restlessness, is concealed within the person, that's argosha. The hakara, recognition, is that when it comes in a revealed manner, until it becomes so real within the person, it's as if he sees it. It doesn't need any proofs and doesn't need any compelling arguments for this matter. So that's das. Das means connection. His kashos, his chabrus. Das means hargosha, feeling, which is not necessarily identifiable. But higher yet, das means recognition, where it's real. The heder adas, the lack of das, zehu asiba l'ruach shtus. This is the cause, the reason for the spirit of folly. Hamachasa ala emes, which covers up on the truth, umata es adam, and leads the person astray. Shenid melei, so that the person can imagine shegam kishu evir al ratzon ha'elyon, that even when he transgresses the celestial Hashem's will, identity adusa is still his Judaism is still intact. So how do we get rid of the spirit of folly? In order to remove the spirit of folly from the opposite of kedusha, what's the antidote? Holy, holiness of holiness, folly of holiness. For although the usual conduct is that the person needs to go in the middle road, as the Rambam says at length in Hilchas Deis, in the laws of ethics, that a person should normally choose the middle path, not extreme to the right or to the left, but rather the middle. But this is specifically if all one's life one has gone and continues to go on the right path. So therefore, normally, then you can go down the middle. But when one turned away from this middle road, from the straight path, to the side of the opposite of Kedusha, then there needs to be a turning to the other extreme specifically. Top of page Pezayin. This is similar to that which is explained concerning a Baal Tshuva. Someone who returned shouldn't say, I want, but what should I do? What should I do that my Father in heaven decreed upon me, and therefore I cannot do it despite that I want? But rather, Baal Tshuva has to say, he has to say, I do not want. It says concerning prohibitions by, I think it's a Pashas Kedeshim, or at the end of Kedeshim, it says, I think it says, V'skadishtem v'yisem Kedeshim ki kodesh ani. You should be holy because I am holy. So Rashi says over there, bringing from Chazal, that a person should fulfill the mitzvahs and refrain from engaging in negative acts, whatever it is, consuming negative, prohibited foods and so on and so forth, because Hashem decreed, not because you're disgusted by it, but because Hashem decreed. So from there it would seem that the person should say, I do want, but I'm only refraining. Why? Because Hashem told me to. Says the Magid, that this refers to someone who all his life behaved in that way, behaved in the right way. So he could say, I want, but I'm not doing it because Hashem told me. But someone who has tasted the forbidden, so to speak, he shouldn't say, I want, but what should I do? Hashem commanded. He needs to say, I don't want. That is what? That's Shtus the Kedusha. Because being that he's a Baal Tshuva, there needs to be a special boundary. That is Shtus the Kedusha. We make additional boundaries not to come even near to the opposite of Kedusha. Yeah, yeah. Kol Yom of Tshuva. All our life, we're in a state of Tshuva. So too it is in this matter, in the idea of Shtus Kedusha, that being that through the spirit of folly from the opposite of Kedusha and the sins that one committed, what did it do? It pushed away the Shechina from it made the Shechina depart, as the Rebbe began in the beginning of the Maimer on Basi Legani, where he explained that the 7 sins pushed the Shechina away from the earth. So too when we engage in that, Chas v'Shalom, we cause the same result. So therefore, in order for there to be following that, that the Shechina should dwell within us, we have to construct a mikdash, a temple made out of shittim wood, acacia wood, right? What is shittim wood in the spirit, in the deeper sense? Shtus the Kedusha. We need to engage in the atzei shittim of Kedusha, in the folly of holiness, through which we construct our Mishkan, our temple, and through which we draw down the Shechina into us and into the whole world. Continue Mitzvah tomorrow.